Hello and welcome to the Free Piper. My name is Jason. I'll be your host. This is episode one of hopefully many episodes to come. At some point, I will be joined by my dear friend and fellow philosopher. His name's Mark. Mark is originally from Syria, but now resides in Germany. Um, Today, unfortunately, he couldn't join me today, but so at some point he'll be joining me for future episodes where we have some dialogue and conversation and hopefully invite you in so you can take part in that. But the Free Piper, where's the name come from? Well, it was inspired by Henry David Thoreau. Henry David Thoreau is my personal favorite philosopher out of all the philosophers that I've studied under, many great ones, Plato, Socrates, Aristotle, Confucius, Lao Tzu, Buddha, Friedrich Nietzsche, Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Ralph Waldo Emerson, and the list goes on. But Thoreau was my introduction into all things philosophy. Thoreau himself was he was aligned with the transcendentalists in the mid 19th century, the mid 1800s, early to mid 1800s. Guys like Emerson. And the thing about Thoreau that is really unique is he's more of an eclectic philosopher. Actually, the very book that kicked it off for me right here, his timeless classic, Walden, which he wrote or was inspired to write after he had done this experiment in the woods, as he called it. He went into the woods next to Walden Pond. There's a picture of it on the cover there. I've actually been there just a couple years ago. It was my first time going there. After picking this thing up, I think I picked this up for the first time in 2008. Set it down for a little bit, read a couple other books because it was a little heavy for me at the time. I wasn't quite prepared for it and ready for it. But then I eventually picked it up in 2009 and I've read it multiple times. I have memorized thousands of words of this book. As you can see, I've got handwritten notes. This book it traveled with me in my backpack everywhere I went for a number of years. I got a lot of my favorite passages memorized and underlined and so anyway, so this site is all about basically encouraging other people to look within and unlock their greatest potential. That's really what it comes down to. Why the name The Free Piper? Thoreau, when I visited the Concord Museum, which sits right across the road from Ralph Waldo Emerson's house, which has now also been turned into a museum. When I went there with my lady, Jimena is her name. She's originally from Bolivia. That's why she's got a little bit of a unique name there. But Jimena and I went into the Concord Museum, and they have the bed that Thoreau slept on in his cabin that he built by hand next to Walden Pond back in the mid 1840s. And they also had this flute. It was kind of a little flute pipe that his brother had given him. And it still has etchings on the side of it from his brother. And Thoreau is known to walk around town playing this flute, to pass time. And as many of you probably know, you've heard of the story of the Pied Piper, right? And so the idea, the Free Piper, it comes from this idea. Thoreau, in my view, is one of the freest minds and spirits that I've ever come across. He even said, "I was not born to be forced. I will breathe after my own fashion. Let us see who is the strongest." Obviously he also penned the great timeless classic essay, Civil Disobedience, right? As it's commonly known, which I've read numerous times. And he was a big proponent of small government, and actually no government, so to speak. And he said actually in the beginnings of Civil Disobedience, right, that at some point that no government essentially would be the type of government that men would have, right? But it's just going to take time before they realize that's the best way to go, and that every man should live free. And actually, he said all the best things are wild and free. So that's what this whole site is going to be dedicated to, is to free our inner spirit, unlock our heart, unleash our heart, free our minds, of the lifelong brainwashing and societal conditioning and familia conditioning, from our family members and friends and yada yada. But to free our thoughts, and to free our hearts to live more authentically and more true to ourselves. And I found no other subject on the planet that has helped me more than philosophy. Okay, if you read my bio on my the Free Piper Facebook page or my YouTube channel, it'll say that first and foremost, I'm a philosopher. That's what I want people to know. And what is a philosopher? A philosopher is just an individual who has a undying love for all things philosophy in all its forms. And what is philosophy? If you break down the word philosophy in its original Greek etymology, it means philosophia, which translates to the love of wisdom. That's really all it is. A lot of people think philosophy and they think of some graduate level class or some higher level class they had to take as part of a prerequisite to earn their degree in college, and philosophy is just it's practiced or spoken about by old guys with thick bushy beards that sit in the back of some university library with pipes and smoking jackets, sitting around discussing guys like Thoreau and Plato, Aristotle, whatever. But that's not what it is. Philosophy is a practical handbook for life. And the best life, right? The best lives, I should say, they begin with thinking, right? You can't manifest anything without a good way of thinking. And, that's why Thoreau said, as a single footstep will not create a pathway on the earth, so a single thought will not create a pathway in the mind. To make a deep physical path, we walk again and again. To make a deep mental path, we must think over and over again the kind of thoughts we wish to dominate our lives. It's been attributed to Ralph Waldo Emerson, where he said, sow a thought, reap an action. Sow an act, reap a habit. Sow a habit, reap a character. Sow a character, reap a destiny. Right? Whether he said that or not, maybe in one of his public speeches, who knows? But it's been attributed to him. And regardless, it's a true statement. Right? Your character, your success in life, it all starts with your thinking. Mahatma Gandhi, I can't say that, but Mahatma Gandhi, right? He said, man is but the product of his thoughts. What he thinks, he becomes. Marcus Aurelius, over and over again in his timeless classic Meditations, right? He said, the happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts. See to it you entertain no notions unsuitable to virtue and reasonable nature, right? And he said, your thoughts determine the quality of your mind. Your soul takes on the color of your thoughts. So yeah, it all comes down to our thinking. And for me, what I found is up until I was about 35 years old, before I picked up and started reading and studying philosophy, that a lot of my thinking was more shallow. It really was. And it was concerned with as Thoreau said, the petty fears and the petty pleasures of life. Things that are built upon illusory foundations. And I wanted to really look within, interrogate my own thoughts, my own way of viewing the world. And what I found is that nothing will inspire the human heart or awaken the soul more than philosophy. So, what I plan to do with this site is this page, this content is hopefully share a lot of that wisdom and a lot of the thinking that comes from brilliant minds like Thoreau, Ralph Waldo Emerson, Marcus Aurelius, Friedrich Nietzsche, Confucius, Plato, in his dialogues, Seneca, and his letters from a Stoic, and share that stuff in a practical way, to maybe help inspire you to look within and question what it is that you're doing here. What is the purpose? What is the meaning behind your life? And that's the whole point. So if you find this content helpful in any sort of way, if you like this content, please like, subscribe, comment on any of the content, and share it. Share it with friends and family members if you think that they might get some kind of use out of it. So I'd like to take this first opportunity here, in this first episode, to kind of share my background, who I am. Why is it that you should listen to me? Well, I will tell you this. I'm a very unique individual in the fact that, unlike a lot of people, I've never met anybody quite like me in terms of I have memorized hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds, if not thousands, of some of the most profound expressions, written word, quotes, that these great thinkers have shared with the world. Just in Walden alone, I've memorized thousands upon thousands of words out of this book, right? And I've literally written those. Your heart has its own little brain, its own little neural network of memory cells. If you ever think back to, that girl that you started, that girlfriend you had in high school or whatever, or in college, right? You memorized her phone number by fill in the blank, by heart, right? Your childhood address by heart, right? Why do we say by heart? Because your heart actually has memory cells in it. And every single quote that I share here from memory comes from the heart. And the reason why I can remember them is because they hit me in the heart. They hit me in the feels, so to speak. And they help to awaken my heart. And so I thought, I should probably memorize that for future use. Build this huge library so I don't have to carry around all these cumbersome books, but I can have their best parts, best passages, their best words and thoughts and ideas written right here on my heart. So that gives me kind of a different view on life. It's like Carl Gustav Jung said. He said, your vision will become clear only when you look in your own heart. Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes. All right? And that's the whole point behind this site and this content, is to help people look within their own heart, and maybe awaken a little bit. And awaken to all that life has to offer. Unleash their inner spirit. Unleash their heart. It's, Confucius said, wherever you go, go with all your heart. Not part of it, all of it. Go with all your heart. The ancient Sufi, I think he was a Sufi sage, Rumi, he said, only through the heart can you touch the sky. Right? So hopefully this content awakens your heart a little bit, inspires you, makes you become a little bit more conscious of who you are, how you relate to the world around you, and ultimately helps you live a more fulfilling life. That's the ultimate goal, right? Not to leave that potential on the table, right? But to unlock it, unleash it. All right, so that's what I'm all about. And how do I do that? Well, I have a pretty extensive coaching background. I have more than 14 seasons of youth baseball and football coaching. I've also helped coach aspiring endurance athletes, even my own lady. Just this last year, in the beginning of 2025, decided to start running and taken running seriously for the first time in her life at 50 years old. And after a few months of training, she went and participated in her very first 5K with me as her coach and pace setter, and she took home a Masters Champion Division first place award in her very first 5K. She ran an 8:10 per mile pace, an outdoor PR of 25:20, which is excellent, which is an advanced time for somebody her age. and she did that with my help and my coaching and me helping her and being alongside her in training. Um, I'm an award-winning triathlete. I have a couple of first place in age group finishes out of, I think, 8 sprint triathlons that I participated in, and was even an automatic qualifier for the USA Triathlon Age Group National Championships in Milwaukee, Wisconsin back in 2022, which I did have the opportunity to participate in. I'm also I've completed a marathon in 3 hours 24 minutes, and back when I think I was 39, shortly before my 40th birthday, back in 2013. I'm 52 now. But I'm hoping to get back and do another marathon as a pace setter and a coach for my lady. Her name's Jimena, and maybe at some point she might join us here in future episodes. But that said, so yeah, I'm an award-winning endurance athlete. Took a second place in age group out of maybe about 38, 39 fellow runners in my age division back then, and was the 17th overall fastest male. And even despite it not being the wisest choice, but I also led like the first 2 miles of the marathon that I participated in, which was kind of dumb because I just did it for a photo op coming down this hill where we started, and I had all 100 and some runners behind me, several hundred runners behind me, and I had somebody take a picture of that. It's pretty cool. But yeah, shouldn't come out fast like that. That's not a good race strategy, and I paid a heavy price for it, to say the least. So anyway, I'm also an advanced parkour practitioner. I've been practicing or training in parkour pretty heavily going back to the end of 2013, and found few disciplines as beneficial as parkour. That said, I try to take my parkour to that progressive, more and more advanced level, and I did get injured here and there, despite doing practicing as safely as I could, and so in my older age, I've had to kind of scale it back. And recently, my lady and we've been training for triathlons, and this year we're going to do some running road races. Again, she's going to defend her 5K at the hometown 5K here in Central Ohio, where we're at. And hopefully do a 10K this year and the Columbus Half Marathon. She's never done a she's done a half marathon distance, sub 2 hour half marathon on the treadmill, but we haven't done one quite yet outdoors, but we plan to here soon this spring. And from there, next year we want to do the Columbus or maybe some other full marathon. And eventually, training over the next couple of years, she's gonna participate in a triathlon. So right now we've been swimming like crazy. She's learning how to swim like a triathlete, and at the local YMCA where we go to train. So hopefully that's in her future as well, and then I can be there to help coach and guide her, unlock her potential, and ultimately help her live a more fulfilling life, and a life of purpose and meaning. But what I like to do is take what I learned in philosophy and infuse that. I also study a lot of psychology as well. I'll quote a lot of Carl Gustav Jung during these episodes. They're kind of cousins, philosophy and psychology. Matter of fact, Friedrich Nietzsche, the great existentialist philosopher and philologist, expert in languages. He called himself the first psychologist, and no doubt, I think he really was the first person to really kind of coin that term. And then you had guys like Freud and Carl Jung come after him. But I love Carl Jung's work. I've read numerous works of his, memorized a lot of the good things that he had to say, and so I infused the philosophy and the psychology into the way that I train, and they've helped awaken my own spirit, my own heart. So hopefully this content will help you learn something about yourself, maybe grow, take some risks, do some uncomfortable stuff that helps to awaken your own spirit. Um, and that's the whole goal. So again, if you find this content helpful, please like, subscribe, comment, and share it with your friends and family if you think that it might be beneficial to them. That's really what this is about. Is unlocking the human potential that sits dormant in a lot of us and oftentimes dies with us when we die. And there's nothing, I think, more sad to me is when I look out on the world, the people that are closest to me, whether it's people I work with at work or, people that I interact with on a regular basis, whether it's friends, family, you name it, and I can see this potential, that they have that is just sitting there, lying dormant within them, and I've been guilty of this myself. I for instance, I didn't read a book cover to cover my entire life, outside of kids books when I was younger, right? Where the Wild Things Are or whatever. And honestly, I had such a good memory in high school, and didn't really apply myself to anything other than football and baseball, and keeping myself just eligible enough, a C plus average or a C average student back then, just to keep myself eligible. And I could skim books in English class or literature or whatever, government class, you name it. I could skim the material. I could pick out the details, extract the dates, extract the names, and memorize it fairly well to regurgitate on a test to do well enough to just get by. I look back on that now and I regret that. Approaching life like that, right? It was lazy. It was apathetic. It was a form of willful ignorance, and I look back on that and just shake my head. And it really wasn't until I was 35, and during my marriage to my now ex-wife, my first marriage, I was faced with divorce, and she had a long-term affair that whole thing just rocked my world when that was uncovered and revealed, and went through a divorce. And that was kind of the existential crisis, so to speak, the midlife crisis, so to speak, at age 35 that finally kicked me in the butt. And I realized I felt like a failure at life. This relationship, this marriage, this home, my kids, I have 4 kids, all this stuff just kind of started falling apart. Felt like it was built on a house of cards, which in reality it was. And so, oddly enough, my ex-wife was the one who gave me this copy of Walden, I think back in 2007, right around there, for a birthday gift. And I let it sit on the shelf, collect dust. And I eventually, when I was faced with this whole impending divorce, and essentially the destruction of my marriage, I've turned to this book and I picked it up. I found it too difficult to understand. It's kind of written in an old English style of writing, and so it didn't flow very well for me at the time, and I put it down. And I eventually picked up The Shack, which was the very first book that I read cover to cover, like legit cover to cover, without skipping any parts. And I read, I think after that, The Kite Runner, 2 fantastic books about forgiveness, ultimate forgiveness. And then eventually after The Kite Runner, I came back to this. And since then, I've memorized thousands upon thousands of words of this book, written them on my heart, literally put them in heart memory. And to give you a sample, right? In the beginning of this book, it's on page 66 of my copy here. Thoreau tells you why he went into the woods and participated in this experiment. It was on a plot of Ralph Waldo Emerson's land near Walden Pond, which is kind of like a small lake. It's like 110 foot deep out in the middle. And I actually got an opportunity for the first time since picking this up and reading it back in 2009 to actually visit Walden. And I told myself after I read this book You can see kind of on the cover there is a picture of it. I've been there. And I've run around this pond with my lady, Jimena, and visited the site where his cabin, where he built his cabin, real close to the shores of Walden, up in the woods there. And they have this wooden sign, and on that sign is a portion of this expression from Thoreau. Again, it comes from page 66 on my copy, and he talks about why he went into the woods. All right, and he says this, and they only have a portion of it. They have the first beginning portion of it, but they left out the best part, the second half of it. But he said this, and again, this comes from the heart. All right. I will never forget this quote as long as I live, and this is how I approach life. He inspired me to approach life in this manner. He said, I went to the woods because I wished to live deliberately, to front only the essential facts of life, and see if I could not learn what it had to teach, and not, when I came to die, discover that I had not lived. I did not wish to live what was not life. Living is so dear. Nor did I wish to practice resignation, unless it was quite necessary. I wanted to live deep and suck out all the marrow of life, to live so sturdily and Spartan-like as to put to rout all that was not life, to cut a broad swath and shave close, to drive life into a corner and reduce it to its lowest terms. And, if it proved to be mean, why then get the whole and genuine meanness of it and publish its meanness to the world? Or, if it was sublime, to know it by experience and be able to give a true account of it in my next excursion. All right, and so that's how I approach life. You know, in that whole sturdy and Spartan-like manner. Hence the triathlons, the marathons, the endurance sports, the parkour. I'm also a martial artist. I've been training with nunchucks since I was basically an older teenage boy. Where I got my first set of nunchucks. Maybe I'll tell that story later at some time, but now I have several pairs, and I thoroughly enjoy nunchucks. I essentially go into a flow state. I put in my headphones, I listen to music, and I get that twirling those things, and you know, and it kind of it feels very freeing and artistic to do that. But that said, so hopefully I can share the things that I've learned from philosophy, you know, which is just a love of wisdom, right? Philosophia means the love of wisdom. That's all it means. Psychology, and you know, the things that I've learned through challenging myself in endurance sports and things like parkour. Life experiences, things that I've learned from my own life experiences. I've had quite a few pretty significant life experiences, from being married at a young age, serving in the United States military, traveling the world while I was in the military, to places like Saudi Arabia and France. You know, when I was in the Air Force, to having 4 kids with my oldest. They're all adults now. My youngest is 19 and going to college. 3 girls, 1 boy. My oldest has a rare genetic disorder. It's called Cornelia de Lange syndrome. It has a lot of, you know, she had a lot of medical complications, some heart surgery when she was just a very young infant, or well, toddler, about 1.5 years old. She's had seizures, you know, in her adult life, those sorts of things. I've been through divorce. Even took my ex-wife back after her affair, and to the point where we entered back into a relationship right around 5 years after our divorce, and she started moving back into my house. But pattern recognition, I saw some patterns there that raised some red flags, despite what I was being told. The behaviors are still there. So, you know, not a lot of people have had those types of life experiences. In my work life, I'm an IT person, and have some pretty cool experiences in that regard. So yeah, I'm in information technology. So yeah, I've had some pretty interesting life experiences. Hopefully I can share some of those with you as we go along in future episodes. For instance, one of my best friends, he's from Syria, from Aleppo, Syria. His name's Mark. He's in his late 20s now, and he since left Syria, thank goodness, war-torn Syria, and he now lives in Germany. He is, let's say, a protege of mine. I turned him on to philosophy. He's now read and memorized hundreds upon hundreds of quotes from great philosophers. We both have a love of philosophy. He's like the Lucilius to my Seneca, so to speak. And we talk. We've known each other now 10 years, according to Facebook, which is where we met. Oddly enough, we met in a group that was a group formed by folks that did parkour training. A lot of them were parkour athletes and free runners, but some of them weren't. And the group was called Hold My Beer While I Do This Handstand, because it was a group dedicated to people who were learning how to do handstands. And so that was one of the things I learned early on in parkour that I really wanted to master was the handstand. And I've been able to do handstands above 30-foot drops to concrete, on concrete pillars and in high places. I don't do that kind of stuff anymore so much, but yeah, so that's how Mark and I met, and we both have this profound love of wisdom, and we've spent hours and hours and hours, countless hours, on video calls together. We've actually never met in person, but that day is coming, hopefully sooner than later. But I'll have Mark on future episodes. We'll discuss all things philosophy. He's big into physical fitness training, parkour, as I mentioned, and other training modalities. He does a lot of I don't even know what you call it, calisthenic work. The planks, the V-sit. He uses rings and pull-up bars and all that sort of stuff. A little bit more advanced calisthenics, and is even putting together a course to help people with back injuries use calisthenic training to help heal and strengthen their back using various calisthenic modalities. So I plan to have Mark on future episodes. Trust me, the conversation is quite enlightening when Mark and I get together and start spitballing quotes back and forth at each other and comparing notes when it comes to what we've learned in philosophy and psychology. A lot of the teachers of old, so to speak, from Lao Tzu, Confucius, to Plato, Socrates, Aristotle, Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Henry David Thoreau, Ralph Waldo Emerson. He's learned from the greats as well, memorized a lot of their greatest expressions, some that I have not memorized myself, and I have memorized some that he hasn't memorized yet. But we spitball back and forth. It makes for very, very enlightening, deep, and invigorating conversations. So definitely going to have Mark join me here, and so we'll do some video calls and record that content and get that published here on Facebook, on the Free Piper page on Facebook, on the YouTube channel at the Free Piper, so check it out. Again, if you find this content helpful and inspiring, enlightening, helps to kind of wake you up a little bit to your own bound up potential and helps to unleash it, please like, subscribe, share it with friends and family, comment to your heart's content. We'll do our best at some point in the future to maybe host some live events, to have people join those live events and have some lively discussion. All right. So until then, please enjoy your day, and I look forward to having you join me for some future content. All right. Take care. Have a great day. Until next time.